Hello and welcome to another episode of Sci-Fi-Night, Tipsy Talk, where we unscripted and slightly tipsy just review and talk about latest releases. We are covering X-Files Season 11. We are up to episode 8 now, and we are joined once again by show regular Joseph Ari. How you doing, buddy?
Oh man, so glad to be on your show again, especially this time around.
Yeah, in contrast to last week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because you called me and wrote me like 6 or 7 times within the last 48 hours asking me if I had seen this episode.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was in for a treat, either a treat or a massive piece of shit. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't going to be a run-of-the-mill episode. And luckily I can tell you that, especially me, I mean, I know that you are... you said this about yourself, that you are very forgiving when it comes to the X-Files.
Exactly, and I'll admit that, like, okay, this is not a good episode, but I kind of like it.
Exactly. I pretty much, I almost had given up on the X-Files. I've been very vocal about this.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 things that started to piss me off. First one was politics. We mentioned that before. I just don't want it in X-Files. Doesn't belong there. Just annoys the living shit out of me. Second one was mythology episodes because they don't make sense anymore and they fucked up the continuity, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And the third one was odd humor. Like, I don't have a problem with humor in the X-Files, but especially when talking about last week's episode, it was just uncomfortable. It wasn't funny, you know what I mean?
That was a perfect example, like when the humor misses the mark. And like in my opinion, like a lot of the worst episodes, like especially out of season 7, which is like such an up and down season, but the worst episodes of season 7 are without a doubt the ones that are like kind of comedic, but they just don't hit the comedy point, and then like just the whole episode falls apart.
So these were basically my 3 main issues, especially with season 11, where I felt that when they didn't shove politics down our throat, they didn't give a shit about the mythology and forced really stupid humor down our throats that didn't even fit into the X-Files. I was like, what the fuck happened to the show that I once really respected and admired? And now I'll be the first one to say it. This episode was amazing. I mean, this episode was amazing.
I fucking loved it.
Yeah, and first thing about this episode, and I mean, I don't know if you agree with me, part of what made it so great is that my 3 main complaints that I had, that I just named, they just left these aspects that annoyed the living shit out of me completely out of this episode and just gave us what we, the fans, I believe, have been craving for a very long time, which is an interesting, creepy case.
Exactly. And, I mean, you and me both talked about it quite a while, and it was... I think one of the things that I messaged you as well was, like, finally, like, an old-school X-Files episode in the same vein of, like... some of the like darker, like sort of like the darker stuff of season 4 or to some extent season 8 as well. It was just like that was what. Why wasn't the entire season like this?
Dude, I'm telling you, if the entire season had been like this, or if the entire 10th season had been like this, I would have been fine. Again, back in the days, like way back, I was almost always more into the mythology episodes because it was so ambiguous and it kept you wanting, craving more answers. But as the show progressed, I found these episodes to develop continuously worse. While the standalone episodes, the Monster of the Week episodes, really stood out as an opportunity to be more creative, more creepy, more hilarious. And I was like, yeah, by now I care more about the Monster of the Week episodes. And you and me both talked about season 10, I believe, the revival season, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2016.
Exactly. And my favorite episode from that season was the one with that garbage-ish monster with the wall paintings.
Yeah. That was a really solid episode.
Because it was creepy, because it was Mulder and Scully working off of one another, investigating a case together, and it didn't shy away from becoming a horror-themed episode, which is what the X-Files used to be about, and what your channel is basically about.
Yeah, so, I mean, the X-Files used to be called like the scariest show on TV and stuff like that. I mean, admittedly, this is 90s network television, but I mean, still, like, putting it into context, I mean, it's hard to really disagree with that, to be honest.
I totally agree. I mean, you got episodes like Home, okay?
Yeah, Via Negativa, that really underrated hospital episode, which is fucking creepy.
And even some of the alien bits, I mean, don't get me, even some of the mythology stuff, really scary. I even remember, and I know a lot of people hate that season 8.
I love it.
When they captured Mulder and we saw him on board of the spaceship being probed on, that was terrifying, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And they took the material very seriously, which is why I loved Season 10 and 11, most of the time for me, felt like, yeah, they have basically become a parody of their former self.
Yeah.
I don't like that. But, now let's get into this.
Yeah, so let's run over this episode a little quick. It's called Familiar. It's episode 8. It's written by Benjamin Van Allen, who he was I think a co-producer or... No, a writer's assistant for season 10, but he never got a full writing credit. I don't really know anything else about what he's done. It's directed, though, by Holly Dale, whose name you probably don't know, but she's a solid television director. I was looking through some of her filmography, and I mean, from like, she's done some episodes of Stargate Atlantis, Relic Hunter, you remember that old Tomb Raider type show, Relic Hunter, DOC, The Collector, Kyle XY, The Dead Zone, Heroes, the Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I mean, her filmography is just filled of Law and Order, Dexter. She's done tons, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., NCIS. I mean, she's a solid television director.
I only ever watched Relic Hunter because I had the hots for Tia Career.
Yeah, same here. I actually looked up. I looked up the trailer or the intro for that the other day. First of all, that show intro is like 2 minutes long, which is kind of weird.
But you know what? Back in the days, that's one of the things that I loved about 90s television.
Yeah,
were the intro sequences. About basically, the show could be horrible. But back in the days, people really put some effort into intro sequences. The only modern shows that I can think of that really put some effort into their intro sequences are The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, and Dexter.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the other ones, like Netflix, I noticed they do a lot of the same sort of like just CGI titles just coming up in forms, and it's like it was kind of cool when they first did it with Daredevil, but it feels like we're doing that with every single show now. But and to be fair though, X-Files has always had an iconic intro.
I love X-Files is one of my favorite intros. Like again, I continued watching season 10 only because they brought back the original intro.
Yeah, exactly. So, in this episode, Familiar, I'll just read the synopsis here. Mulder and Scully investigate a brutal animal attack of a little boy in Connecticut while suspecting darker forces at play. And
I think at this point we should once again warn the audience that this review or Tipsy Talk will contain spoilers.
Oh yeah, and all the spoilers, not just this. Like, we'll spoil all kinds of shit.
You've been warned.
But I remember last week you mentioned that you were getting some vibes of like Stephen King's It with this, and from the very get-go, it was like, yep, this is so It.
Especially the intro sequence.
Yeah. Specifically
that was basically Georgie.
Yeah, exactly, with the yellow jacket and everything, and going after a sort of a seemingly
clown figure.
Yeah, like a clowny thing, supposed to be cute and cuddly. One thing that I will have, I don't have a lot of negatives for this show, for this episode, but so I figured I might as well just get him over with now. Some of the designs of the kid stuff was a little too creepy looking.
Yes.
I mean, no one in their right mind would design a children's mascot to look like that.
Yeah, not only the, what was his name?
Mr. Chuckleteeth.
Mr. Chuckleteeth, not only him, but especially those weird-ass looking Teletubbies.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, but fucking demon tubbies.
Seriously, they look like something out of, I don't know, out of a horror series.
It was like something out of a Silent Hill game.
Exactly, or Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Looked like the Teletubbies with zombie rabies.
Like, what I was actually hoping they would do there was that, like, those were, like, demonic forms of the original. So, like, the original Mr. Chuckleteeth maybe would be a bit more nice-looking, and the original Teletubby thing would look more like a traditional Teletubby. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't, like, that they had it so, it was a little too obvious on the nose. But to be fair, Mr. Chuckleteeth now is, I mean, pretty iconic of these last two seasons. As a monster, it's like it's him, it's the were monster, the comedy episode, and the trash man.
Yeah, I mean, I like the design a lot. It was creepy. My favorites. Well, now let's get into my nitpicks as well. First of all, you already mentioned it. The creature design phenomenal, but at the same time, it looks too scary to actually be a child cartoon icon, you know? My second nitpick was the behavior of the townspeople in general, because this is a small community, and that scene where they all of a sudden beat the shit out of that guy who they suspect to be responsible for the murder of the kid. To me, that is sort of where it almost jumped the shark, but it didn't quite do it. Because it was the typical, oh yeah, townspeople are crazy, townspeople go nuts, and basically the whole Frankenstein metaphor once again. And they did that too many times in the past. I was like, yeah, it felt like they needed to fill the time slot.
I don't know. I thought I felt a bit more earned in this episode simply because like it was actually like a child that got killed. And that the guy actually was like a registered sex offender.
And I get that, and a lot of people like this. But just like 45 people surrounding that dude, beating the shit out of him without any evidence, it felt kind of weird. And also the way they handled the cop who shot him in the face, like, why didn't they arrest him on the spot? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel that like a lot of the message was like small town justice, mob mentality. It was a little over the top, but at the same time, like when he actually did shoot the guy in the face, and like those couple seconds leading up to it, I thought it was actually filmed and acted pretty.
Oh yeah,
very well though. Like they did it well, but yeah, it was maybe a little overkill.
I didn't have a problem with the way they executed that scene. That scene was flawless. I mean,
no pun intended. How they executed it.
Yeah. I actually thought that he was going to call an ambulance, and we were just like, you know what, fuck it, let's kill him. I was like, wow, okay, I like that scene. I just didn't, and I understood the cop because it was his kid, you know, which really reminded me of Prisoners. Have you seen that film with Hugh Jackman?
I actually haven't. Everyone's been, one of those that's been on my list, and I just haven't had time to see it.
Okay, watch that film. Tell me that scene didn't remind you of Prisoners. By the way, Prisoners is once again directed by Denis Villeneuve, the guy who did Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario. Every single movie that guy directed is something that I love. So really,
he's like one of those. He's like one of those Christopher Nolan guys who just can't make a bad movie.
Exactly. Even his weak ones are still amazing.
Yeah.
So, and you should definitely check out Prisoners because it's also my favorite performance by Hugh Jackman.
Oh, snap. Interesting.
Better than... Yeah, I mean, you should definitely go and see it because you will not regret. It's amazing. Amazing film. Yeah, but what I really my favorite scene, because now we talked about our nitpicks, but my favorite sequence in the entire episode was when the cop was entering the house and Mr. Chuckleteeth appeared on television.
Oh, yeah.
And basically transformed the set of the kids' show into hell.
Yeah, and then when it shows up with a demonic face at the end, that was, like, genuinely fucking creepy.
I love that. And I love that Mulder got to witness some of that madness as well.
Yeah.
Well,
it's one of those that, like, Mulder's always the one who gets to see all the good stuff. Scully's always like, she trips on something or she got attacked by something and she gets her a little bit late.
Yeah. But am I the only one? And again, maybe that's the 80s, 90s kid inside of me. But when that wolf appeared in the forest looking at Mulder, I had to think of the never-ending story.
Oh my god, I was just about to say that with the nothing.
Wow, okay. Thank you. I just had to think of the never-ending story. It's like, oh, please don't start to talk now.
Yeah. No, but I definitely got some of those vibes as well. And I also really liked that scene with the cop going into the house. And I also really liked it was like a smaller thing, but I also really liked when Mulder first sees that big the Hellhound thing. I just liked that it was pretty subtle and one of those kind of like, the dog didn't behave demonic or anything like that. It was just like perfectly understated.
Another thing that we've complained about in the past, that the show sort of forgot what subtlety meant, and now it's back. And overall, I liked the vibe. It was something out of a Stephen King novel.
Yeah. Definitely.
Mulder and Scully entering a small town where people's pasts are involved with the general crime of the episode, and everyone sort of has a dark secret. Sometimes it's only something personal, like having committed adultery. And I like that. I like the little suburban double identity of the townsfolk.
Yeah, and the twist as well. I actually liked that too. That it was the cop's wife who was trying to get back at him for being unfaithful, and I was like, 11 seasons of X-Files can still surprise you.
Yeah, especially since they build it up like it was going to be the woman that he had an affair with.
Yeah.
Because he called her a witch, and she even said that she was messing around with some magic as well or something. And she's like, I made it stop, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, so it's definitely her. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
Which leads us, in my opinion, to the end of the episode, where Mulder and Scully leave the town, but you still see the swing of the playground starting to move again.
Yeah.
So that might have been the other lady, because both of those girls performed some kind of spells or something.
Oh, they were up to something. It feels like everyone was like kind of up to something in this town.
Yeah.
And just like when it comes to the feeling of this episode, like this guy Van Allen who wrote it, none of us know anything about it before, but I read some of the stuff that he wrote about the episode, about the writing process, which I think is pretty relevant to bring up. He says the following about writing. What is it? I really wanted to have some recognizable monster for the episode. That's where Mr. Chuckleteeth came in. Like the classic X-Files field, I definitely wanted to set it in a small town. I wanted to start the episode in the town with Mulder and Scully and end the episode in the town with Mulder and Scully. As much as I love all the X-Files lore, I didn't want to see the X-Files office. I didn't want to put Skinner in this episode. I just wanted it to be a very classic, standalone Monster of the Week episode. So he had like the fan mentality himself.
Exactly. He understands what the fans want from their favorite show.
Exactly. And hats off to this guy. It's a shame he didn't write all of like season 10.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I don't think you should cater to fans to the point where nothing can surprise them anymore, because that's not what the fans want. But there is sort of a formula to what makes a show so great, or what makes of any franchise so great, which is why, for example, if you look at the Indiana Jones films, first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is Indy going after an ancient device from the Bible. Okay. Second one, it's these are these ancient crystal thingies, not the crystal skull, which is based in sort of Mayan or Inca mythology.
No, and the second one, it's Hindu though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Hindu, but also the devilish cult beneath them wasn't all Hindu. That was something else.
Okay.
The Hindu was the prince who invited them.
Yeah, right.
And the third one goes back to the Bible. So it was all drenched in mythology and fairy tale and Bible and blah, blah, blah. But the fourth one jumped the shark by giving us aliens.
Exactly.
And UFOs. Like, no, those two things just, they don't mission match, you know?
And I just want to say that another thing that I liked about this episode, or I guess it's just like the general just ambience. Like when we talked about the direction, that like it's a solid TV director. I feel like you could tell there was just something about the shots and editing that was just a cut above the rest. Just establishing shots that really set the mood right away, and just small little things and tweaks that just worked so well.
From the get-go, this episode felt like a passion project.
Oh yeah.
It felt like a lot of love for detail went into that one, you know? It took the characters seriously. The banter between Mulder and Scully was sweet, but they didn't overplay it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
When shit was serious, then they would have serious moments. They even, in my opinion, played well and very subtle with the concept of them having a son.
Exactly, yeah, when they're doing the autopsy on the boy and stuff.
Yeah, and also later, when Mulder interviews the mom.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Asks him, do you have any children? Yeah, I have a son. He's now a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Very subtle. And that's it. They don't go into it. It's like, oh, where's William? What is he up to? Is he luring girls into another trap?
He's not showing her the picture. Like, yeah, this is him. He can make monsters appear.
Exactly. If this episode would have been done by someone who did the previous couple episodes, this is exactly what would have happened. We're like, we will now interrupt the episode to give you exposition on Mulder and Scully's job.
Yeah. One thing I gotta state, though, that's like, it's a small thing, but when Scully's talking about, like, witches don't exist and stuff like that, I'm like, come on, you guys have bumped into witches a couple times. I mean, at least a solid 3-4 times. You guys have run into, like, flat-out witches.
Yeah, but again, that is my problem with the X-Files ever since they brought it back with the revival.
Yeah.
It's them still acting like, none of this was ever real. We've never encountered anything weird. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, I was hoping that they would go forward with Scully's character, like, more as a continuation from, like, seasons 8 and 9, where she had... She believed, but she didn't want. I mean, but she had a rational outlook on things. She didn't buy everything as paranormal right away, but she was open to it. And I wanted to see that go forward with Mulder.
Exactly, but the problem is both of those people should not only be open to it anymore. They because there's a difference between believing and knowing, and. They saw some shit, you know what I mean?
And like another thing, like we're talking about spontaneous combustion, and she's like, "Oh, spontaneous combustion doesn't exist." A fact check: season 7, the episode Trevor, we're at the point where Scully's character that she actually suggests spontaneous combustion as a solution for how someone was killed.
Spontaneous human combustion.
Scully.
Well, isn't that where you're going with this?
Dear Diary, today my heart leapt when Agent Scully suggested spontaneous human combustion.
Mulder, there are one or two somewhat well-documented cases. Mulder, shut up.
Now it turns out it's a guy who can pass through things, and he passed through the guy and like cut him off. But she herself has suggested spontaneous combustion towards the other seasons as a viable option. So it's like, why are you reverting back her character?
Yeah, I don't get that. But they did the same with Mulder in season 10 in the premiere, when they tried to tell us that aliens never really were a thing, but super fascists using alien technology. I was like, come on, we saw the aliens. Mm-hmm. They took Mulder.
Yeah.
Remember your own show?
Remember the movie you guys made like 15 years ago where aliens are like bursting out of these chambers and trying to kill Martin Scully, and then they take off like 1/4 of the Arctic with them when their ship leaves?
Yeah,
what?
That's the thing, you know. I get the whole thing of Mulder being a believer, Scully being the skeptic. I get that. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between, believing, even with the religious people. Religious people will always say, I believe in God, okay?
Yeah.
And I could be the skeptic. But if I actually saw some magical creature, and I saw it, and I talked to it, and I saw everything, and I had proof, then that wouldn't make me a believer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd get to the point where it's like, yeah, I know, this is totally a thing. I saw it, guys, I have evidence. But so yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that one, because I think it's weird, but maybe, and just maybe, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. The director of that episode might have been a slave to the new continuity, you know, and the new lore that, and because they kind of decided to ignore some stuff from the past for the sake of being ridiculous.
Exactly, yeah. And I also do give them, like, I mean, it's not one of those things that ruins the episode, far from it. I mean, it's like, but... So I also do buy that all the writers, their scripts, they go through a lot of drafts before they're accepted. So I can imagine that, like, maybe they wanted to not alienate people and sort of like purposely bring back that old school X-Files feel, like, oh, she's a skeptic, Mulder's a believer, we got to go back to that. You have to like standardize your script a bit. But I mean. And I read a little bit online that, like, they said, like, oh, well, this episode didn't really take enough risks. And I'm like, they killed 2 kids. They had a guy get executed by a cop before almost being beaten to death. They had, like, an entire family wiped out, the last one being the mother who burns alive. I feel like they did take some risks.
I think this episode, I mean... It is now my favorite episode ever since the revival happened.
Yeah, I think, I gotta say, for me too, yeah.
And it took a lot of risks. I mean, with everything, the entire plot was very risky. The graphic violence, the fact that we got to see the kid's body during the autopsy, everything that went into this one. Here and there, it paid homage to Stephen King's It, for example, and people may not consider that being risky. But overall, for primetime television and cable television, yeah, I believe they took a lot of risks.
Yeah, I think so too. And one thing that I noticed...
Not everything can be Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead. Yeah. Where it's absolutely okay to slaughter main characters.
I mean, we're so desensitized. I mean, we forget that, like, you couldn't, like, there was a long time on TV where you could not get away with anything even close to this episode.
No, yeah. I think we're desensitized because of shows like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, or even Bad because you see some horrendous shit on there.
Yeah, or like, I mean, some of the Netflix stuff, like all the Punisher stuff in Daredevil and now a standalone show. I mean, that's super gory.
Super gory, but not every.
I mean, you put this episode into context, and they definitely took risks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So overall, I mean, final verdict. We've never really gave any of these episodes a score, right?
No, but you know what? Fuck it. Better late than ever. Let's go through the episodes one by one. We'll just give him let's just give him a 1 to 5 score, just to make it easier.
Okay. First one was My Struggle Part 3, right?
Yeah.
I would give that a 2.
I give it a 1. Sorry.
Yeah, I get that. For me, the Mulder shanking the fuck out of a guy, like straight up Oz style, puts it to a 2 for me.
Hated it. The second one, what was that again?
Second one was the one with Lone Gunman AI one.
That's also a 2 for me.
Yeah, I'll bump it up. It's 1.5.
All right, fair point.
Because I really hated My Struggle Part 3. So and I liked what was it called? This?
Yeah.
I liked it better than My Struggle Part 3, but then again, I like Diarrhea better than Struggle.
Let's see, episode 3 is +1, the Evil Twin episode.
That one I actually enjoyed. I'd give it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, for me that's also a solid 3. Doesn't do anything new, doesn't do anything spectacularly well, but gave me that old X-Files feel.
Exactly.
Number 4, the first episode we reviewed on here, The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat with the Mandela Effect.
Yeah, to me that's also a 3 because it does have some issues, again, with the politics, again, with some of the jokes that didn't work. Mm-hmm. And to me that episode dragged on for too long, but the stuff that worked really worked, and I can't say that I wasn't entertained, so 3 out of 5.
I'd have to give it a 3.5 actually there. For me it was all those sort of little in-jokes, which, I mean, they're catered to people like me, so I expected to get a slightly lower score from like the non-super hardcore fans. But just those small things for me, definitely 3.5.
The episode just lost me when the alien was quoting Trump at the end. I was like, come on.
Episode 5, Ghoulie.
Oh, that one, this may come off as a surprise to you, but that one, to me, is a 4 out of 5.
It's the same for me. That's a 4.4 out of 5. Just perhaps a little too many things going on.
Yes, I agree with you, but to me, this was the perfect blend of character continuity and mythology continuity, and Monster of the Week episode. It was kind of both, but done right. And to me, this was also the strongest case of character development when it comes to Mulder and Scully ever since the revival.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, both 4 out of 5 on that one.
Yeah.
Number 6, Kitten, the Skinner episode.
Look, I like Skinner, yeah? I really like him. And I like him having more screen time. That having been said, the whole plot regarding Al Bolland, yeah, that's what I call the kid now, and chemtrails and everything, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
That's actually higher than me. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. I love Skinner, as I think most X-Files fans do. There was some, and it was interesting at least getting a sort of like some insight into this time in Vietnam. We've never actually seen like a flashback to that period, but just, I mean, you could give me this episode, or you could give me like a Xanax and a bottle of whiskey. This episode would put me to sleep quicker.
Yeah, it was really unspectacular. I mean, you would figure if you finally get an insight into that guy's past, that we'll get something mind-blowing, spectacularly interesting, just didn't deliver.
Yeah. And then, oh god.
Next up was last week's episode, right?
Do you actually know the title of last week's episode? It's like they're trolling us.
Oh yes, like
RM9SBG93ZXJZ.
Yeah, it's like someone fell asleep on their keyboard.
Yeah. Or I bet you somebody's gonna comment like, well, if you put that into a barcode, it makes up all the X-Files. Or I guarantee there's some really contrived thing it means, but nobody fucking cares. And who's ever gonna want to talk about this episode? It's like, oh, do you remember that episode RM9SB? It's like, no, we don't. And that is a 0.5 out of 5 for me.
To me, yeah, I was about to say that. 0.5. I thought it was virtually impossible for me to hate an episode more than My Struggle Part 3. But, I mean, props to them, right?
Yeah.
This episode was painful to watch. Mm-hmm. It was also, I think, the shortest review that we ever did.
Yeah, I mean, we spent half that episode talking about other stuff.
Yeah, because nothing happened. Yeah. It wasn't smart. We got the message 5 minutes in, and then they just hammered it down. Mm-hmm. Pulled down with a nonsense. It seemed completely detached from everything we've ever seen on the X-Files, and not in a good way.
Oh, definitely not.
For example, the postmodern Prometheus, one episode that I love and adore, also kind of feels detached from everything we've ever seen on the X-Files before, but that is done right, done with so much care, so much love, and so much respect for the characters and the show. This one just felt like, oh shit, we got another episode to shoot? Well, let's just do something ridiculously stupid. Let's do that one.
Yeah. I got an interesting, or we got an interesting comment on last week's review, actually. Somebody saying, I thought this was an excellent episode. If you're following the Tech World Expanse, which I have, this is a humorous, a little creepy, and a truly prophetic view of a smart cities and I think he means a transhumanist world. It was supposed to be strange. Did you hear they are rolling out Flippy, the hamburger robot flipper in California? I'm sorry you didn't see all that I saw in this. Just amazing. I don't agree.
Well, look. I don't have a problem with that message, and I've said it before. I don't have a problem with people trying to put some satire into science fiction, because science fiction has always been about satire or social commentary or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And especially in a world that develops so quickly when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
That having been said, you can do that while entertaining us, or you can do it while making us die from being bored to death, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, and I call him a buddy of mine, Keith Morocco, who follows the show quite a bit. He also liked it, and it's like, I'm glad that people are getting enjoyment out of it, and it seems that a lot of people involved in sort of the more like IT stuff who work in it and things like that got a lot more out of that episode. But to me, that makes it a little bit like, if they did an episode that like only hardcore MMA fans would really like, I don't know, that wouldn't go over well with everyone else. I would probably love it because I'm a big MMA fan, but it wouldn't work for everyone.
At the same time, I think those super niche episodes shouldn't be what defines a good X-Files episode. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For example, let's find something that I adore. I adore South Park, okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If there was an episode that totally dedicated itself to South Park, I was like, interesting. But what the fuck does this have to do with the X-Files? And while I would appreciate the effort, still, it wouldn't. If this would have been a short film trying to get a point across, okay. But I still have to rate it as an X-Files episode. And as an X-Files episode, it was disappointing as shit to me.
Yeah, I mean, I do see what some people see in the appeal, and I actually think you make a great point. But if you took this out of the X-Files universe, I think I'd be a lot easier on it, not as hard on it, and probably like it more. But it was just that for me, it just didn't work as an X-File.
Exactly. It's what I've been saying about. Have you seen the film Mother by Darren Aronofsky? Probably the most divisive film from last year, second only to The Last Jedi.
I haven't seen it. I've heard some interesting things about it. And Darren Aronofsky, I mean, he is like a human Kinder egg. You never really know exactly what you're gonna get out of a guy.
Here's the thing. You get what he's trying to say in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is basically, don't be mean to nature. Okay? And you get it from the get-go. And to me, that film would have worked if it was a short film, like 45 minutes. Perfect. Okay, I get it, but now let's be done with it. This movie goes on for almost 2 hours and just hammers the same message in over and over and over and over again to the point where it's like, oh, fuck, I'm going to leave the theater now. I can't stand it. So I get the hate, that even though the acting was superb, everyone was doing a marvelous job. It was well shot. All from a technical standpoint, great film. But it was just not a good. To me, it was not supposed to be a full-length feature film. For that, it wasn't. I mean, subtlety is an art form, and this movie is everything but subtle.
And do you notice how once again we were talking about that episode, and we end up talking about something else?
I know.
It's the curse of that episode that we can't even name because nobody has the time to do it.
Exactly. Okay, then let's move on to
this episode.
This week's episode, I'd give it 4.5 out of 5.
Exactly, mine as well. I can't, in all honesty, give it a 5 out of 5 because it is. I mean, to be fair, it is a little bit more of the same of like classic X-Files formula. It doesn't do anything new, doesn't do anything different. It does have some smaller issues, but it works. For what it tries to do, it accomplishes everything it tries to do.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more because a 5 out of 5 would probably be an episode that stuck with me for days, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Something monumentally must have happened. For that kind of stuff. Probably a good mythology episode. Yeah, good luck with that one.
Right.
But, as you already said, what they were going for, I think they achieved their goal. It was creepy, something I wanted to see. It was a very interesting case, finally.
Yeah, and what I like, too, is that some of, even a lot of the older X-Files episodes that I like, I mean, you've got, like, the whole case figured out, like, us, the viewer, has the whole case figured out within, like, the first 15 minutes. Like, we've seen the killer, oh, he does this, oh, he changes into that, okay, gotcha. There's not a whole lot of episodes that really keep you a little unsure until the end. The fact that this one did it, that they, I mean, again, hats off to Benjamin Van Allen, the writer.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Overall, solid episode, great writing, great character development, great subtleties, great creature design. Just a great Monster of the Week episode. Yeah. And I always like Monster of the Week episodes in general that don't necessarily end on a happy note. I mean, you know that Mulder and Scully are going to be fine. But they leave this town, and the last thing we see is that, well, this town is still fucked. Yeah. Creepy things are going to continue over there.
And I feel like a lot of the best X-Files episodes kind of do about, like, one of my favorite episodes, it's not on my top 10, but it's still it was on the top 5 scariest one, Die Hand die Verletz, which basically ends with Satan winning. Satan gets what she wants, and Mulder and Scully just barely make it out of her. And it's kind of like, as Tom would say, like, okay, Mulder and Scully, they're our view into the paranormal world, but they can't necessarily save us from it. Like, some of this stuff is too dark, too evil, too powerful for even Mulder and Scully to be able to stop, and we're just lucky we're getting a glimpse of it. And that's what this did as well. I mean, the forces of darkness basically swallowed up the people doing it fucked up, and that's good luck for everyone else, or so it seems, until that thing starts moving by itself. And yeah, Mulder and Scully kind of controlled things, but, you know, in the end, the true for the darkness is still out there.
Yeah, also, Mulder and Scully, they didn't solve the case, so to speak. They didn't stop the killer this time around. The killer basically killed herself by conjuring up dark magic. Mm-hmm. And dark magic's still around. And Scully's even like, dude, I've had enough. Let's just leave this place.
Yeah, I mean, she really is like, let's get the fuck out of here. My science is not going to save me.
Yeah. And Mulder's like, yeah, I mean, they're out of children to save anyway. So.
Yeah, it was a small town. The kids are all gone.
And you gotta respect that. And also, again, the nice, gentle moments between Mulder and Scully worked really well.
I really liked when they're talking to the cops at first, and even though Mulder and Scully are thinking different things, she's thinking it was like a human who killed him, and Mulder's thinking, like Hellhound or something like that. They're still backing each other up, like, in their own kind of way against the cops. They're like, no, it was an animal attack. And then when they walk out of there, and Scully's like, thanks. And Mulder's like, yeah, you're my homie. I love that line.
I got your back. Like that. Really, 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 again, their chemistry is off the chain. It's always been off the chain. And overall, yeah, really cool episode. I did not see the trailer for the new one, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that looks interesting, actually. From the trailer, basically makes it look. I mean, this is what I'm gathering from it. They're not giving us a whole lot of solid evidence, but it kind of looks like Mulder and Scully are going after a vampire hunter.
Okay.
That's kind of what the trailer makes it out to seem. But I heard some writings about that. It's supposed to be a pretty dark episode as well, which I'm definitely looking forward to.
Every time I hear X-Files and vampires, I'll think of the single most hilarious episode of the X-Files, where Mulder hunts down what he believes to be a vampire.
Yeah.
And kills it. And then we get to see the story from every single witness, and it gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah, Bad Blood. Probably the funniest X-Files episode ever.
But again, humor that works, you know? Yeah,
exactly. Humor that works both in its own, but also in the context of the X-Files.
Exactly. Yeah, that was an hilarious episode.
Speaking of context of the X-Files, I got another little X-Files trivia thing that I noticed. You know that black cop in the city? Like the only city's black cop?
Yes.
He played a cop in season 5, Folie à Deux. He played a different cop, and X-Files actually has this weird thing where they'll reuse actors in different roles. If you watch, especially the first 5 seasons that were all in Vancouver, because there wasn't a huge acting pool there, they ended up using some of the same sort of smaller actors in different roles. And I actually think it's really cute that they did that here as almost like a little nod to the fans, because when the cop was his last episode was 16 years ago, so nobody remembers it. So it's only us hardcore fans who are going to see that and feel like, oh, it's just like back in the day when they were shooting Vancouver, they had to reuse some of the actors. Because obviously they could have chosen, they probably had a list of 1,000 people wanting to fill that role. And the fact that they chose that same actor, I mean, that was so obviously purely as a little nod to the fans, which I really like.
I know that actor, by the way, from another show that I used to watch until it turned to shit, 24.
He was in that?
He was one of the main characters, yeah.
This might sound weird. I never watched 24.
Okay, to be honest, if you watch the first season, it's going to blow your mind because it's really good. And they have their formula down, and it works. The only problem is, at some point, it gets so repetitive that you absolutely know what to expect from every single season moving on. And this is where it gets just too boring, to be honest, because even though the pacing's still great, the acting's still great, the budget is impressive, there's no more surprise, you know?
Right.
And a show that kind of used to live off its ingenious twists, well, without the twists, it's kind of nothing.
That sounds super lame.
Yeah.
In contrast to what we had tonight, and I mean, it's not a whole lot left of season 11 now. We've got 2 more episodes. This was a definite highlight. I mean, both of our favorite episodes so far, and I think from what I've been reading online, because I'm with most of the X-Files groups on Facebook, everybody loved it as well. And I honestly think they got, like, you know, an episode that will be seen as a great episode, not just in context of the last 2 seasons, but as something out of a whole series. I think that Mr. Chuckleteeth will be a recurring X-Files meme and like a remembered villain, and I do think that this episode will hold up, which I'm so happy that we finally got like something of this quality in this season.
I believe that that Mr. Chuckleteeth might even turn into a preferred Halloween costume.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, I hope so.
So, yeah, overall, I really liked it. Just one thing I need to point out again, just to give you a general recommendation. Mm-hmm. Start watching Fringe, because I can't wait to see what you think about it. And I think that your channel is made to start doing reviews on that show.
Oh, I'm so down. Now that I've changed, like that I got a new job, I actually will have a little bit more time for getting around to shows and to do editing and stuff like that, because I'll be working from home, which is kick-ass, and so hopefully I can bring the channel up a little bit more. I know that's I think continuity has been kind of what I've been lacking. I'll go like 3 weeks without an episode and then just pop up into 2, and
yeah, so tell me about it. Yeah. That's the one thing that I desperately want to recommend to you. And I already told you that, I mean, I work in the industry, in the YouTube industry, German market, and I do weekly reviews, weekly live shows on The Walking Dead. And I now start to watch the spin-off show, Fear the Walking Dead, which I was really reluctant to do. Mm-hmm. Gotta say, it's pretty good. And unlike The Walking Dead, this is a horror show.
Okay, interesting.
It focuses more on the horrifying aspects of the zombie apocalypse. And it really reminds me of, Romero, to be honest.
Sweet. Well, that's another solid recommendation.
And I only bring this up now because here's a suggestion. I don't know how fast you are with everything and how your viewing habits are, but Season 8 of The Walking Dead will continue for another 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Fear the Walking Dead is only 3 seasons in, pretty short, and the week after Season 8 of The Walking Dead comes to a close, Fear the Walking Dead will return. And they've announced something big, that these 2 worlds are going to merge.
Oh, interesting.
Stuff's going crazy. And if you are able to catch up with Fear the Walking Dead, mm-hmm. we could do weekly reviews for that as well.
That sounds super fun. I want to start doing more of this stuff because like it's easy to produce, it's quick to get out, and it's getting good response and stuff. So I'm definitely down for that.
Well, then just let me know, because I'm really looking forward to Fear the Walking Dead. First season's only 6 episodes. Nice companion piece to The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. Different tone, but I like it. I think The Walking Dead's still better, but I like what I'm seeing so far.
Okay, sweet.
All right.
Well, so, I mean, that was our thoughts on X-Files Season 11, Episode 8, Familiar. Of course, let us know your thoughts below, but let's face it, chances are you liked it.
What did you think of Mr. Chuckleteeth?
And did you also have that song stuck in your head for like 2 days? Because I did. I was like walking around humming, Mr. Chuckle Teeth, come and play with me. And I was catching myself doing it.
And did you also have to think of the never-ending story when you saw that wolf? Are you as old as we are?
Hopefully not. Or no, actually, hopefully you are. It'll make us feel less old.
Yeah, maybe you're older. God, you're old. We're so young.
Fuck. You got one foot in the grave, man.
Yeah, older than us. Oh.
All right. Well, this was a fun episode. Without a doubt, our longest episode so far. And once again, massive thanks to Joseph Ari, who, if you're not following him on YouTube, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Great fucking stuff. Super in-depth, interesting, fun reviews. A lot of interesting specials like the Joss Whedon verse. And tons of other stuff that you guys should check out. And like you know, there is always a chair reserved for you on our show.
Thank you so much. Love to be on your show. It's always a blast being on your show, whether it's the Halloween specials that we do, our weekly reviews for the X-Files. Thanks for having me. And new content will be up very soon on my channel as well. I've been lacking, but thank you so much for having me on your show.
It was our pleasure, and we will catch all our viewers next time.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.